2 Samuel 18. And Daud mustered the people who were with him, and set commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds over them. And Daud sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab, and 1/3 under the hand of Abishai son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I shall certainly go out with you too. But the people answered, Do not go out, for if we flee away, they would not set heart upon us. Even if half of us die, they would not set heart upon us. For now 10,000 are like us. Therefore it is better for you to support us from the city. And the king said to them, That which is good in your eyes I do. And the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. And the king ordered Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the people heard when the king gave all the commanders orders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field to meet Yisharal. And the battle was in the forest of Ephraim, and the people of Yisharal were smitten there before the servants of Daud. And the slaughter there that day was great, 20,000. And the battle there was scattered over the face of all the land. And the forest devoured more people that Yom than the sword devoured. And when Absalom met the servants of Daud, Absalom was riding on a mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great terebinth tree, and his head caught in the terebinth, and he was suspended between the Shamayim and Aretz, while the mule which was under him passed on. And a certain man saw it, and informed Joab, and said, Look, I saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree. And Joab said to the man who informed him, Now look, you saw, and why did you not smite him to the Aretz there? Then I would have given you 10 pieces of silver and a belt. But the man answered Joab, Though I were to receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the son of the king. Because in our hearing the king ordered you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, Take heed, you who go against the youth, against Absalom. Otherwise I would have been untrue to my own life. For no matter is hidden from the king, and you yourself would have set yourself against me. And Joab said, Let me not waste time here with you. And he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through Absalom's heart, while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor went around, and smote Absalom, and put him to death. And Joab blew the ram's horn, and the people returned from pursuing Yisharal, for Joab had held the people back. And they took Absalom and threw him into a large pit in the forest, and heaped a very large pile of stones over him. And all Yisharal fled, each one to his tent. And Absalom, in his lifetime, had taken and set up a monument for himself, which is in the king's valley. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the monument after his own name. And to this Yom it is called Absalom's monument. And Achimaaz, son of Zadok, said, Please let me run and take the news to the king, for Yahuah has avenged him of his enemies. But Joab said to him, You are not the man to take the news today, but you shall take the news another Yom. But today you do not take news, because the king's son is dead. And Joab said to the Cushite, Go inform the king what you have seen. And the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Achimaaz, son of Zadok, said again to Joab, And whatever might be, please let me also run after the Cushite. And Joab said, Why would you run, my son? There is no news to bring you reward. And whatever might be, he said, Let me run. So he said to him, Run. And Achimaaz ran by the way of the plain, and passed the Cushite. Now Daud was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate, to the wall, and lifted his eyes and looked, and saw a man running alone. So the watchman called out and told the king. And the king said, If he is alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came nearer and nearer. And the watchman saw another man running. And the watchman called out to the gatekeeper and said, See, a man running by himself. And the king said, "This one is also bringing news." And the watchman said, "I see, the running of the first is like the running of Achimaaz, son of Zadok." And the king said, "This is a good man, and he comes with Besorah." And Achimaaz called out and said to the king, "Peace." Then he bowed down with his face to the arets before the king, and said, "Blessed be Yahuah your Elohim, who has surrendered the men who raised their hand against my Adoni the king." And the king said, "Peace to the young man, to Absalom." And Achimaaz answered, "When Joab sent the king's servant and me your servant, I saw a great throng, but I did not know why." And the king said, "Turn aside and stand here." And he turned aside and stood still. And see, the Cushite came. And the Cushite said, "Receive news, my Adoni the king, for Yahuah has avenged you this yom of all those who rose against you." And the king said to the Cushite, "Peace to the young man, to Absalom." And the Cushite answered, "Let the enemies of my Adoni the king, and all who rise against you for evil, be as that young man is." And the king was shaken, and went up to the room over the gate, and wept. And as he went, he said this, "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. O Absalom, my son, my son."